any of them. The first two, I wrote for the market, so I just wrote what was popular.
What was popular at the time?
Twilight.
Oh, I love Twilight. You need to give me that book. I love Twilight. You need to give me that book. You need to give me that book.
What, you don't have it?
No, you need to give me your book. Your book.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, can we start this episode with a disclaimer?
Sure.
When I showed you my copy of the proof you sent me, your eyes went wide. I saw it. I saw you were visiting me. And I said, yeah, if you send me a proof and it doesn't look like I've taken it into the toilet, I've taken it into the office, I've taken it into my bedroom, I've taken it into the kitchen, it means I didn't enjoy the book. So as you can see, this book has been...
The front isn't... I've seen the front before. It's the back.
I have a 7-month-year-old child. I have a 7-month-year-old child. I left it on... I'm looking after him. I left it for a second, and he just tried to vandalize it. Do you get what I'm saying? He was intrigued by it. That's his first reading experience. You can take credit for that.
I'll take credit for that.
Mommy.
Yeah.
This book, I said to myself, if Jessica comes, one of the most disappointing things would be if she's not funny. Because this book is hilarious. This book is hilarious. It's a lot of pressure because I was in stitches, and my wife was saying like, there's very few books where I'm like that. Like I'm reading and I'm like, I was in stitches. Like, do you understand? No, honestly, listen, yeah. Wait, It's the mum because I have a Ghanaian mum as well, yeah. And I totally understand. Like, where can I find these pages? Oh yeah, basically, I'm about to let mum know I've done this, but a message from her is already sitting on our chat.
Okay.
Oh, she sent me a voice note. She never does that. I think she knew. I didn't think she knew how to. I pressed play. Madeline, of course she's shouting. I lowered the volume in my earphones. Madeline, I have just discovered voice activation messages on WhatsApp. Look at how your mother is. The message ends there. Hey, I was in stitches. What? I guess I have to ask you, what's your mother like? Is she? I have to ask.
Yeah. So the truest part of my mum in those are the one-liners. Yeah. My mum is a lot more supportive and thoughtful than Maddie's mum. But when I first started writing Maddie's mum, I made her my mum. And my agent said she was very boring.
Oh,
Because she was supportive and she was around and she was present and she was helpful. So this is very much a caricature of my mum. But the one-liners or the WhatsApp thing has happened.
I've experienced it with my own mum. Like, just the lines, like, I know more than you do about how the world works, Maddie, she says. They'll give you drugs for ailments that do not exist, and then you get sicker. It's not necessary. With God, there's no illness. He cannot cure. There's no illness he cannot cure. That's why we rely on him for all things. I quietly ask, then why doesn't he give you money? He blesses me through you, my daughter. She says...
If there is anything I'll give my mum is that she has a comeback for everything.
Oh, okay.
And it's always quick and off the bat. And I don't know, she's just a firm believer in what she believes in.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's something I find very inspirational about her. If she believes in something, there's nothing you can do to tell her otherwise.
I was definitely inspired. I feel like the novel came from a very, very like authentic place, you know? And I guess before we get into it in more depth, I guess I want to know like, what's your experience with reading and writing? Like, you know, as a teenager, what really kind of captured you?
So I read a lot. I read all the time. It's what all my money went on. I spent all the time at the library. But I didn't write until I was 18.
Sorry?
York Gardens Library in
Where's
Battersea.
that? Battersea, okay, South.
I don't know if it's still there because I used to live like a stone's throw away. But I've moved 10 years ago, so... Well, I hope it's still there, but I've not checked. But I didn't start writing until I was 18 because I didn't think that was a job I could do. Just because of all the books that I was reading, I didn't see a lot of black writers. I think the first was Mallory Blackman's North and Crosses.
Okay, yeah, which is like a classic, which is probably over there. Let me
just
just break the fourth wall for a second. We've got this plan. We've got everything on deck. You know what I mean? This was, you know, this wasn't pre-planned. You know, yeah.
Yeah. So that was like my first time seeing. Oh, so maybe I can actually make this a career. But it wasn't until I was 18 and decided that I didn't want to be a lawyer, which is what my mum wanted, and that's when I started writing.
It's interesting you say you didn't want to be a lawyer. So I actually went to the University of Sheffield and I studied law.
No way.
But I wanted to study English literature.
Oh, what a chance.
And you went to the University of Sheffield and you studied English literature.
Yeah.
Honestly, how...
You gonna ask me how it was?
Yeah. I mean, you lived my dream, so I want to know if you lived. You know what I mean? I want to know.
You didn't miss out much.
Oh, really?
It wasn't a great course. When I've spoken to people who did English literature in like London, it was a lot more diverse in terms of reading material. Yeah. Mine was very homogenous, and it was it's quite a sad place to be. So
really,
I mean, I don't know how things have changed now. It's 10 years later, but yeah, I don't think you miss much.
Okay, cool. That's a relief.
Yeah.
I can sleep easy at night now, knowing that my life didn't go in the wrong trajectory. Honestly, well, how was Sheffield for you? Did you miss it?
No. Because I was born and raised in London. I had all my friends in London. All my family's in London. To this day, I can't 100% remember why I chose the University of Sheffield because it's so random.
My mum chose mine for me.
Did she choose the University of Sheffield?
Yeah,
my
for
mum
me,
was like, why are you leaving London?
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, because she was like, you can stay at home and live rent-free while you study.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anyone in the University of Sheffield. I didn't know anyone in Sheffield. And I don't know, I have difficulty making friends. So it was a long and lonely 3 years.
Really?
Sheffield, yeah. So I was very happy to come back.
What year did you graduate?
Okay, so I'm 28 now. I graduated when I was 22, 6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
2016.
Yeah. You missed me. I would have been your friend. You missed me. I went before you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't know you was in your corner just writing a classic. Writing a classic book. And it worked out anyway.
Yeah, exactly. No hard feelings.
So when did you start reading and kind of, based on like, obviously I've taught some of the more humorous parts of like Mame, but like when did you start reading and understanding that you could address themes like in literature? Because I think a lot of us start as teenagers reading, but then the themes that you start to address like really...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually start writing. So Mame is my 6th book.
Oh, wow.
The 5th book I wrote, but the only one to be published.
I was going to say, you
so,
put in work though.
I've written 5 full books.
Where did it end up?
But nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted any of them. The first 2, I wrote for the market. So I just wrote what was popular.
What was popular at the time?
Twilight.
Oh, I love Twilight. You need to give me that book. I love Twilight. You need to give me that book. You need to give me that book.
What, you don't have it?
No, you need to give me your book. Your book.
Sorry. Okay.
I love Twilight.
Twilight, Hunger Games, Divergent, what was really popular then.
I didn't like Divergent.
It wasn't as good as Hunger Games.
I haven't actually read Hunger Games. I didn't like Divergent.
Hunger Games.
I read Divergent, and that's why I didn't read Hunger Games. Because I was like, everyone says it's the same. Divergent's not that great.
Oh, no, it's not the same. Yeah. Hunger Games, I feel like, was a different level. Really? But I started writing for that, and then...
Can we talk about Twilight for a bit?
Oh, yeah, sure. That was one of my
Jacob or Edward?
Edward.
Edward.
I was Edward.
Because of the end, or were you always team Edward?
How does it end again?
You don't remember how it ends?
Because this was when it was
it's engraved in my heart.
Then. And I do have an annual rewatch of
really?
all 4 of them, but I do skip bits.
You should invite me.
I do skip bits though. I don't watch it all the way through because I'm just like, oh.
Really?
Sometimes. But what was that? I feel like maybe Jacob early on, and then how does it end?
I don't want to do the spoilers.
But yeah, exactly. I was going to say spoilers.
That's the world, introducing the world to Twilight. Like, I don't want to... So basically, when I met my wife, we met when we was in university. This was like the height of my Twilight phase. And she came into my room and she saw these books and she thought, what is going on? Listen to this. And I explained to her how much I liked it. So every one of my birthdays after that, she bought me one of the DVDs. And Breaking Dawn...
I have the DVDs as well.
I have all... Yeah, I've done it now, but she bought me all the
gosh.
DVDs. Yeah, I love Twilight. Breaking Dawn, we went to the 12 midnight premiere at the IMAX.
Oh, no. I didn't...
hey, I love Twilight.
Okay.
I love Twilight. I can't even sit here and pretend I'm too cool for Twilight. Sorry, so you were saying Twilight. You're reading Twilight, Hunger Games, Divergent, and then...
Yeah, and then I was trying to write like them. And then the 5th book was where I started writing about like race and racial politics. And then I got an agent with that. Oh. But again, no publishers wanted it. Oh. And so it was with the 6th one where I write about everything I want to, but in my own voice. Because the 5th one, I was trying to sound really serious, whereas this got more conversational. Like you can hear her in your voice. But I was trying to be more, proper or literary kind of.
Who were you trying to imitate then? If you'd say.
Who was I trying to? I guess kind of like Bernardine Evaristo's writing.
Okay, cool.
How it's very just.
I think we have a Bernadine. No, we'll talk about her later.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's a legend. And,
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, more, Mame and Bernardine Evaristo's books are the style of narration is different, and so that's what I was trying to emulate before turning to this.
Yeah. I mean, I think you captured the amazing voice. Like, the character felt so real. So I guess I have to ask you, I mean, this is the spoiler edition, so you have to read the book. I mean, how much of this story is actually your personal experience? You know, some of the themes, like having her father, which was like, is very like moving, like dealing with Parkinson and all that kind of stuff. Like, how much of that where did you transport that experience from into put in writing?
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions from people saying, like, is this a memoir? And I can't call it a memoir because I would say about 30% comes from me, as in like true to life. But because nothing is an exact retelling, I wouldn't say it's a memoir. But I, of course, had a dad who passed in 2020 due to complications with Parkinson's disease. And I was more of a secondary carer because he had his NHS carers, whereas Maddie's more of a primary carer. So a lot of the themes I've fictionalized, but I've experienced. So I've experienced microaggressions at work. I've dealt with bosses who kind of are going through their own things. The responsibility of being the elder daughter and all of those things, they come from a true place, but they're not an exact retelling of me. So I would say the most non-fiction element of this is Maddie and the dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In terms of writing it, then I suppose was that more therapeutic or was it very hard? Because I can't even imagine the emotions that kind of...
Yeah, so it was therapeutic at first because I started this off as diary entries. I didn't mean to get this published. I didn't mean to turn it into a book. I was grieving. I didn't know what to do about it. And so I just started writing on my computer, just like very random journal entries. And there was a couple months later where kind of automatically I was like, okay, let's see if I can turn this into a book. And I remember sending it out when it was only like 40,000 words, which when you're writing adult, it should be at least 70,000.
Yeah, you got a long way to go. Yeah, you got a long way to go.
So it just shows like the lack of faith I had in it because I sent it off at like 40,000. Like, oh, no,
was that to the agent?
To the agent. I was, so they asked for the 3 chapters and you're meant to have finished your work
the whole
before
book,
you send. You're meant to have finished it because if they ask for it, you can just send it straight away. But I was like, then I'm so used to rejection at this point, and this is like so sad. Who's going to want it? And so I sent it when it was only 40,000 words, and then they just all came back with requests like, can we read the rest? Can we read the rest? Can we read the rest? And so I remember cancelling all of my plans for the past 4 days, and I was just typing for my life. I was literally, and it got to about 60,000, and because this was new to me, I was just so used to rejection. I was well, I'm just going to send it anyway. I don't want them to forget about me. So I sent it anyway, and the office still came in. They were like, you've got a lot of work to do, but
this is something you're holding on to something.
We would like to represent this anyway.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's truly amazing. I think I think there's things that make a good story in terms of like there's conflict, there's character, there's credibility and specificity. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I think is so great about your book is the level of specificity that I think people would have noticed. Like, for instance, at the start of the book, the mum is texting and it says Mum Ghana. Yeah. And then when she comes to London, it says Mum London. If I open my phone book right now, I have Dad London, Dad Ghana, Mum London, Mum. And I was like, yeah, the level of like, did you did that deliberately? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What did you edit? Yeah.
It's just the way it is. My brother, who changes phone all the time, I have brother 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't know who. When I need him, I'm guessing because it could be either one. But I mean, that's just the case. My mum has a phone in Ghana. She has a phone in London.
Yeah, no, yeah. I just felt like it was like those little details. Even there's a point where you actually articulate. And I said to my wife, I've never noticed this. Like, there's a part where she goes into the shower and she can hear them in the garden. And Joe is like, Mommy always leaves the shower at nose level. Yeah. And then, not Mommy, sorry, Maddie. Yeah. And then Maddie's like, oh, but Joe always puts it at head height because obviously she washes her hair all the time. Yeah. And I was like, just that level of like detail is like, it's insightful, but also it makes a story. It just gives the story another layer. So I feel like that's what really, like, I was really impressive as a writer myself. I was like, this is like really, really good. When did you get to that point of being able to like articulate those little like minute details? Was that like in the last draft or was it always there from the start?
Oh, that was always there from the start because those are things that have happened. You know, I've had white flatmates who, you know, it's just way of
explain
the life
for
at
the
the
viewers.
moment.
Actually, I feel like we're having an internal
Oh,
dialogue.
no,
Yeah, but
no.
explain it to the viewers so they understand, basically.
Oh, okay. So, you know, black women don't wash their hair every day. So when they're showering, or at least I speak for myself, when I shower, if I'm not washing my hair, the shower head is here, so it gets my body. Whereas my white flatmates would wash their hair almost once every 2 days. And so it was always up there because it doesn't matter. If it gets wet, it's air dry.
Yeah.
And so it was just interesting when I put that in because I am used to...
Yeah.
Like, I had a great flatmate. She's not the flatmate there, but I wonder if she noticed that she had to always bring it down. She's like, why is she always...
And they're saying,
like,
why is someone
just...
just...
I was taller than her as well.
Oh.
So she was probably so confused. Like, why is it always... And I just always... And I remember when I was writing that, and I thought, how strange that hasn't even computed as something odd. I'm so used to doing it that I haven't even put meaning behind why I do it. I just thought, that's routine. Get in the shower.
Yeah. Have you ever read a book that's made you cry? Because I feel like there was a lot of emotions in my and you know.
Yeah, cry recently. Yagayassi's Transcendent Kingdom.
Oh, another guy. Have you met her?
No, I wish.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm trying, but
it will I feel like it will happen.
Hopefully, she's in the US, isn't she?
She's US based. Yeah.
But no, I remember she was doing an event, but she was doing it during the day, and I was working. So I was like, oh,
for which book?
She was Transcendent Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
In
the UK.
Because I think she was shortlisted, women's fiction
I wouldn't
prize.
be surprised. I mean,
She was shortlisted, and so they had an event, and it was open to the public, but it was like 12 p.m. or something, and I was at work, so I missed it.
People were grinding.
Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't go, but yeah, that story, I think mother and daughter stories really get me, and that's a story about a mum and a daughter who don't get on, but at some point the daughter is having to care for the mum.
And then the kind of...
that's the bit that got me.
Yeah, I feel like all the relationships in your story were kind of like... They were touching in a way, particularly between Maddie and her dad, but I think with her mum as well, the bittersweet nature of the dynamic and how it evolved, I feel like it's definitely going to connect with a lot of people from that kind of standpoint.
Yeah.
Let's talk about... I had another guest on here, Temi Otedola, and she was like, she reads Agatha Christie, and I said, I don't know anybody.
My
I said, I don't know
gosh.
anybody under the age of 60 who
I
reads Agatha
know.
Christie. And then you said to me that you...
Agatha Christie, she's great.
Really?
It's honestly so good for someone writing in like the 1920s. So I worked for a literary agency who didn't publish Agatha Christie, but published books like hers. Oh, and because they were free, because if you worked there, you could just take the books for free. So I started taking them, I started reading them. I remember having a conversation with one of the agents, and she said, if you love this, try Agatha Christie. And I was like, oh, okay, fine, I'll try one. Love them.
Really?
They're
Now
really,
you're hooked.
now I'm hooked.
She had Miss Marple. So do you
really
recommend
good.
it?
I do.
Really?
If you're going to read one first, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
The Murder of Roger... I'm going to take your word for it.
I think you'll like it.
Really?
It's very good. I went to a talk recently, and she's like the third best-selling novel writer of all time.
Really?
After the Bible and Shakespeare.
Wow. I didn't even know. Really?
I mean, when I heard that, I was like, oh.
She's doing that.
She's big.
Yeah. You know, I always you kind of always just a bit dismissive of certain things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was very dismissive. I was like, what is someone who's writing in the 1920s going to tell me? But I really enjoy books.
I'm going to read it.
I
Let's
think
move
you'll
on
enjoy
to the other side, yeah? Because there's a couple more books I want to talk about, and we can chat about them over on that side. But another author that you said had a huge impact on you.
Yeah.
Zadie Smith.
And Bernardine Evaristo.
Yeah, obviously.
And Candice Carty, really, yeah.
Oh. So when did you get introduced to Zadie Smith?
University, I think. Maybe as I was leaving university, so maybe I was around 20 or 2021. I just remember like a real craving for black writers. And I think at that time, when you Google black writers, Zadie Smith was like the first to come up.
Oh, yeah,
and
okay. Yeah, white teeth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the first one I read.
Yeah.
And and then I just realized she had a lot. I love when I discover an author who's got a long backlist, because then I'm just like, oh, great. I don't have to wait for them to publish more. So she was the one. Same with Bernardine Evaristo. I only found out about her when she won the Booker.
Okay, that's
Jewel Brock Booker.
I think I'd probably seen her work around, but you don't pay attention
exactly.
until like everyone's talking about it, because I mean, like, I think she was one of the first black women to win it.
To win it, exactly. And so read that, loved it, and then read Mr. Loverman, which is another one from her backlist, and it's so brilliantly written. But, yeah.
No, she's actually. I have a friend that went to Cambridge, but Bernadine actually wrote the recommendation for her. And she, and the way she said it was like, she literally messaged Bernadine and like, oh, should I apply for Cambridge? You know what I mean? And she was like, listen, I think you're so talented. And she wrote the recommendation for her and she got in.
Oh,
it's amazing, isn't it?
You can't turn that down.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't. Exactly. It's literally like a cheat code. It's literally like a cheat code from the jump. You get what I'm saying? No, honestly. So let's talk. I want to talk a bit more about my favorite person in like. No, I feel like Mum. Obviously, I loved Mum, and I feel like the supporting cast were actually like all her friends. Shu, is it
Shu? Nia.
Shu, Nia. Yeah. Where did you get inspiration from the friends from?
They're real.
Okay, it felt too. It felt too.
They're very real.
It felt like exactly how it felt too authentic.
Yeah. So Nia is my friend Ashley, and Shu is my friend Camilla. I've known them since secondary school, so I think we're going 10 years plus now.
And you met the same way, like with the pen, or was that fabricated?
What part?
You met one of them when they gave you a pen in university?
Oh, no. Oh, no. That was fabricated.
Okay,
cool. That was... No, I met them both in secondary school in like year 8.
Oh, okay. Oh, so really?
Yeah. So Maddie's surname is Wright, which is the surname of Ashley, who's Nia.
Oh, I see.
That's her dad's surname, and she lost her dad in 2016. Oh no, younger, when we were both in secondary school still. So I remember
so kind of like a homage.
Yeah.
How did they feel when they read it then?
Because she didn't notice it at first, and she was like, "Hang on, is that right because of my dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's right because of your dad." Yeah, because she's kind of one of a kind. So I don't know how I would have coped without her.
There's not an acknowledgements page in the proof, is it?
Not in the proofs.
Okay,
no.
I was waiting for it.
She's in it.
When I finished, I was like, okay, I need to understand a bit more about where everything came from. But it wasn't there. Okay, but it'd be in the...
exactly.
Oh, in the final one, okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely need. There's a scene I wanted to ask you about that I didn't quite understand. The macaroon scene. There's a macaroon.
Oh, the macaroon.
You need to explain that to me.
Yeah.
So I knew it was strange, but I didn't understand it in that sense. Yeah.
So so Ashley actually said the same thing. It's a control thing, and it's kind of, I wanted to show how kind of naive but also impressionable Maddie was, because I feel like anyone now, for example myself, if that was me in the situation, I'd be like,
I'm adult.
Get off me. Yeah. But because this is her first relationship, despite being over 25, she's quite passive to it because she doesn't quite understand what is happening. And so being so naive in relationships, that was a scene that I wanted to put in there in terms of her having no idea of what's happening, of what he's doing or why he's doing it.
And Ben was a bit scummy. Still.
Yeah,
Ben was a bit. He was a bit.
No one's a fan of Ben.
Yeah, he was. I think you depicted him well. Like there was always a kind of like, he's too good to be true.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's exactly what Chris said, the friend of mine. Yeah,
there was always that. And then you know what I mean. And then it evolved, and it was like, No, it honestly, no. What was the hardest scene to write?
All the dad scenes, and they were the hardest to edit and reread. I had to reread this book like 15 times.
To kind of.
And it was just so exhausting. I remember during one edit, I took like a month away. I emailed my editors and said, I can't read this again. And then came back and it was fine. But yeah, like I said, the truest bits are Dad and Maddie. And so they're always hard to reread.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard obviously I don't want to go too much into it, like, just because be sensitive. But yeah, I mean, even like when it came to like the funeral scene, like, you know what I mean? The two dynamics of it, you know, like the very kind of like, what's the word? Very formal part of it where you're on the phone, like all that, like, and then there was the whole like family aspect of it. Like there was I felt the pressure coming from every side of, when like obviously Maddie's just trying to grieve, you know what I mean? But as an African or, you know, or maybe as a woman, you have to
keep going.
You have to feel so many of these roles,
yeah.
And I feel like I felt that tension as that part evolved. So I feel like you did it very well, like honestly.
Oh, thank you.
In terms of like, if we're touching about like the romance relationships elements of it, you said this is one that's romantic.
Yeah, so I'm not very into rom-coms. I don't, which this is not obviously.
Yeah.
But so when I was asked, like, do you have a favorite romantic book? I actually didn't. And then I started reading this. And that's when I
you just
changed
started
the answer.
reading
Yeah.
it?
Oh, yeah. So I'm only halfway
Oh.
through. Yeah. I've just never seen love depicted like that or
Yeah.
written.
The way he
so
writes in it,
beautifully, like,
it's like a song. Like, it's
honestly,
like, it's like a long song.
just
Yeah, he does his
pure
thing still.
poetry.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, I need to meet this guy,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it
yeah.
signed. I just feel like it's one of those books that I need to carry around everywhere just in case I see him and like.
No, he's actually a friend.
Signed.
I have a friend
no
in
way.
No, not of me. Sorry, no.
okay.
I have a friend called Mateo. He's in America actually. Had him on the show when he was in Brooklyn, and he's friends with him. So I've never actually met him myself, but he's friends with him. And I read it and I was like, yeah, like you said, it's like music. You know what I'm saying? The way, like I said, I've never read a book in the second person before.
Right.
And he pulled it off, and I was like, oh, this is really, really dope.
Really so well. I love reading it. Like I just literally, if all books depicted love like that, I would be so
It's
into
beautiful.
that genre.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it's one of a kind in that respect.
So for someone who doesn't read romance books, it was crazy how you was able to depict the romance.
Yes, but because someone said, oh, like I would put this in rom-com genre.
Which one?
Mame.
Your book?
Yeah, and I felt like that was a disservice to rom-coms because I feel like they're a different thing, but they're very difficult to pull off. And I feel like you need to love rom-coms to be able to write one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't
Well,
feel like that's a rom-com.
I can see it.
Can you?
I can see
Well,
it.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I can see it.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of humor in it. It's very
Yeah.
I can see it, especially her journey. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Especially the scene where she gets fired and she's sitting at the train station and she looks at the guy and he goes, oh, I was dying. Honestly, I was in stitches. I was like, oh god. No, honestly. Did you not, when you're reading it, you laughing to yourself when you write stuff
I
like
do
that?
sometimes. I'm like, oh, Jess, you're laughing at yourself. That's ridiculous. But
No, it's
yeah,
funny.
I get edits from my editors who are just writing the comments like, lol, ha 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 ha, and I just laugh all over again. So yeah.
Was that deliberate? Did you feel like you needed humour to kind of, or was it just natural?
It was quite natural because I felt like that was a very true part of grief that nobody talks about. Like, you still find things funny afterwards, which was such a revelation to me because I thought once you lose someone as big as your dad or someone you really love, like the joy is gone completely. But then you get these random moments of laughter, and with it comes like a bit of guilt and regret about it. But I like the fact that they still happen together. Like you can still laugh at a crack joke whilst you're grieving. Yeah. And so it felt very natural to have those moments in there.
Oh no, I didn't actually put the two and two together, but now you're saying it, I kind of see it. Yeah. The Google searches. Like genius. Where did that come from? So
I Google a lot. And when I put that in there, I was so sure my agent was going to say, can you take that out? Because it's so weird to just have so many Googles. And then they all came back and said more. Add more. And that's everyone's favourite part. Google. Because nobody admits how much they Google and the things that they Google. I Google so much, it made sense to have it in there.
It was funny.
It was.
There's one where I think Maddie Googled something about like, should you go to a guy's house on the first date?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of the responses was like, run as far as you can. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then she Googled something about like, how is sex supposed to feel the first time?
Oh yeah.
And then there was one response and you were like, what the Wattpad is? Like, something like it was funny.
Oh, Wattpad, good days, man.
Have you ever used Wattpad?
I did, but like when it first started, is it still around?
Yeah, of course,
wow.
yeah.
When it first started and you can just write everything and everyone was supportive.
Oh, really?
Everyone was supportive.
I've never used it like that.
I wouldn't go back now because I can imagine people. But yeah, but the stories on there.
Yeah, some of them are a bit, like you think it's a good idea because they're democratizing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you start
reading stuff and you're like, this is why it's not democratized.
But then that being said, what they say, 50 Shades of Grey, that was fan
fiction,
innit?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it became,
and now look at
it was Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah,
it's become
exactly.
this massive kind of property.
That's huge, yeah.
Your favourite books? If you had to name two of your favourite books.
An American Marriage and The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
Okay, so Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
And this book.
And that book.
It's a great book.
It's an incredible book.
An amazing book.
It was one of the first, because when I was writing and reading, I thought I had to love a protagonist to love the book. So I had to agree with everything they were doing, their motives, for me to enjoy the book. This was the first one I read where I was like, everyone has got their valid point and everyone is wrong.
Yeah.
And everyone is doing the wrong thing, but I can see where they're coming from, why they're doing what they're doing. And that's when I was like, you can really break down a character so they're not just two-dimensional. I guess this was the most realistic depiction of real people, of humanity that I'd come across. And I've just been in love ever since.
I echo the same sentiments. It's actually funny what you're saying, because she said she originally wrote the book from, what's the woman's called? How do you pronounce it?
Celestial?
Celestial. When I read a book, I just pronounce the name however, and I just carry on. You get what I'm saying? But
I've done that so many times, yeah.
So Celestial, she said she wrote the book from her perspective, and then everyone was like, she's not likable. Like, we don't like this. So then she went and wrote it from Roy's perspective as well, to kind of give the other side. Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, because she was like obviously aware that the character wasn't as like. I didn't like her either. I was like, how are you going to do my man like that? I was like, how you in prison? How you going to do that my man like that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I was saying, exactly. But, they all have their problems. But it's so true to life. Not everybody, there's many Celestials, we all know.
Yeah.
So it's very
And it doesn't make her a bad person.
Exactly. It just makes her a person who made the decisions with the information she had.
6 books in, how does it feel to be a published author? Like, finally.
I mean, people keep saying this, but I'm not yet. I feel like I need to be in the bookshop and take it off a shelf.
And then that's when it's hit you.
Sinks in. Because at the moment, it's like, it's not out there yet. But, I mean, I guess that's more about me and how I view what it means to be a published author. I guess I just synonymize it with bookshops.
And being in there.
And like booksellers knowing your name and things. But it's settling in. When the reviews come in, it's sinking in slowly. But
what was your favourite review? Which review was like, oh my God, I can't believe they read it?
So I had a... like the Evening Standard has reviewed it.
Already?
Like, Cosmopolitan, Bustle, Vogue has put it on their list. But there was someone who Instagram DM'd me, and she was, I think, 50 plus, white woman, and she said, I absolutely adored your book, and I found parts of it relatable. And that was really, really something for me, because one of the things that I thought was that no, people wouldn't find it relatable. Because of the stories, the character, grief is so individualized. And when I got that DM and she was like, I'm telling everyone to buy it, I loved it so much. I was like, I didn't think you were my target audience.
Yeah.
But Maddie has found a home in 50 plus, which...
And I guess that's not only a testament to your writing, but the power of stories.
Yeah, exactly.
We focus on so many things that divide us, but we have some kind of universal kind of like thread that kind of like we all kind of are drawn towards.
Yeah.
And I feel like you said, like, the story you're telling, although it's very specific, like I can relate to so many elements of it. Yeah. I also see like, you know,
the wider bit of it,
And I think that's like a great job.
Oh, thank you.
A job well done. So what's the expectations now? Like, what does Mum think?
Oh, Mum doesn't get the what the industry is like. She doesn't get that this is a big deal. Do you know what I mean? It's not like saying, oh, so I solved a case and I saved a patient's life or something like that. But she knows this is what I've wanted to do for a long time. 8 years, I think she came on board 4 years in. Yeah. So she was on board before the book deal, which is what really sets her apart. I think, which is what gives her the edge. But yeah, she's really proud. She's proud that I can make a career of something I love. And I think after stability, because I know a lot of parents, that's what they want for their children. Yeah. That's why they choose lawyer, doctor, vet, because there's that fear that if your parents can't bail you out, then you're deep in trouble. And so she's happy for me to have a job that not only pays the bills, but makes me happy. So she's pleased.
I hear that. I will ask one last question, and you don't have to answer it. I felt like the last scene of the book was so touching, and for me, the ending is almost like the most important part of the book. Yeah. Have you personally had? I won't go into it for the readers, but have you personally had that moment yourself, or was it just it's only Maddie's had that moment? Oh,
I've had that moment before, probably twice since he passed.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much,
thank you for
Jessica.
having me.
I really appreciate your story. I can't wait to see what it does out in the world. And, you know, I wish you the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.